is Dante.
What you bitches waiting for? Get this trash up off my lawn. Move!
Come on, babes! Let's rock!
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is Renegade Operative here, your self-proclaimed internet savage, and we return once again to the top 16 format, where we ridicule the most asinine people, games, and events from a good bulk of the gaming medium. We have another PR case on our hands, or rather, a PR disaster. Possibly the worst PR that has ever involved the company or game series being rebooted. This rift was so deep within the community that it split the DmC community right apart at the very foundation. If you have been there since that exact moment on September the 20th during the Tokyo Game Show, then you will realize what this is all about. The nuclear fallout hit hard as rocks in a boxing glove when DmC Devil May Cry coveted the land, and we had situations where fans were getting shut down on forums, or legit criticisms were getting ignored, and Capcom and Ninja Theory stuck to belittling the fan base as hard as they possibly could.
Not in a million years.
This, my friends, is the top 16 dumbest things ever said during the DmC PR campaign. Yes, my friends, the swath of bullshit is certainly real, and this is coming from a legit Devil May Cry aficionado who had to also tolerate this fucking belittling ass shit for years. Just like everyone else among the herd who were addressing their concerns or issues to make the reboot better, I also felt spat on in the process to what was going on. As a short disclaimer, I'll try to gather as many of these air quotes and place the sources that I possibly can on screen for you guys, so you can have the evidence centered and ready to go. Now, to quote Arkham, let's welcome chaos. Number 1. If old Dante dressed as he was and walked into any bar outside of Tokyo, he'd get laughed out. So, since you made this notion that the old Dante would get laughed out of a bar in Tokyo, I have a question for you. Do you even realize that the possibility of this premise happening dips well into the goddamn negatives for days? Let me explain. On this world, we have very eccentric humans that could wear any damn thing they please. If you were referencing cosplay or any other possible like that, then maybe what you were saying was valid. Maybe that could make sense in a realistic scenario. However, at the end of the day, you're just talking about fictional characters. Fictional people that exist on a fictional plane that is completely made up from the developers at Capcom. Dante really won't get laughed out of a bar, and I'm positive outside of the long trench coat and the cute mannerisms that your iteration stole from. The new Dante looks very average at best. Word around the grapevine is Ninja Theory actually had art designs of the new Dante just shirtless with suspenders. Who would honestly get laughed out if they really were to stoop to your logic? You tell me! Number 2. People just hate our game because the new Dante doesn't initially have white hair. I think the only white thing that skews your argument to craft such a ridiculous statement is the crack cocaine that you have been smoking. 6 lines a night is probably what you're willingly giving your staff to say so many bogus things to the public, but none of that will fly here. It's never ever been about the new iteration of Dante lacking the distinctive white hair. It's actually been about the glaring issues with the Unreal 3 engine pumping out 30 FPS for a Devil May Cry game. It's always been about the combat being a tad more simplified, much to the agony of pro Devil May Cry players. It's always been about this new version of DMC that falls flat on its face when it comes to the puerile nature of some of the characterizations compared to the original. You see where I'm going at with this? All arguments that are regarding hair just seems to be nothing but smoke and mirrors compared to the actual flaws this reboot has. And need I remind you that he actually gets white hair at the end of this game anyway, so whatever. Number 3. DmC's team has previously thrown out Devil May Cry's previous approach to a female design and actually said it's not attractive. The following quote goes as followed: "If you look at stars in movies, the women people find really attractive are often not the ones with the biggest tits. You've got to be attractive on a different level. We did that with a slave, with Trip. People loved her, not because she had big breasts and high heels, but because she felt like someone who could be your girlfriend. That to me is more attractive than a prostitute walking around with a big gun." Not to demean prostitutes. So, for the entire game, you have an extremely unattractive Lilith, and your interpretation of a succubus is to make certain that she has chewed bubblegum for fucking skin. Then we get the cat, who is really just a crutch for Dante to continue on this half-baked adventure, just to be an overglorified damsel in distress, and you're still droning on about supposed prostitutes with big guns? Beauty is only skin deep. Where is the strong damn women in this story to begin with? There is a reason why the original women in the original DMC were well adored among the fan base. Eventually, while they did have to be saved on their own occasions, they were actually fighters. They actually had depths to their background when it came to such examples like Lady's tragic family history. She's driven to undo the damage caused by her father's chaotic lust to open up the demon world. She has an intense spite and hatred for these demons as she fails to fully understand them on her path of her mission. She really doesn't even consider Dante capable of feeling the same sentiments despite him being half human. And that's why we come to this resolution at the end of the game that even devils may cry. But oh no, chalk these strong characterizations up to prostitution because they have big guns and tits. All Cat does is carry around a fucking can of squirrel jizz and does nothing relevant visually or story-wise. In fact, if Virgil or Dante just let her get killed off, their discovery by Mundus would have been much more bothersome to his objective to hunt them down later in the game. Even Noriko from Heavily Sword has bigger balls than the entire cast of DMC Devil May Cry combined. Number 4. Devil May Cry fans destroyed the brand out of spite due to the lower sales of DMC Devil May Cry. That's a very hilarious statement, considering that Tamim, the director of this game himself mind you, stated that it's the worst creative crime to try to create DMC for someone else, and he didn't care how it sold. According to that logic, not only did the director not give a shit about sales, but he also wasn't strictly making this for the fan base. There's just one big pothole in his logic, in that this game has the Devil May Cry name attached to the box. So you're going to cater to the fans of the originals anyway because they are expecting a Devil May Cry product. If you don't care about the current fan base, they will not care about you. Hence, it's justified if people decide not to buy into any of the bullshit that this game was spewing. When the customer and business relationship is broken, then of course you will get low sales. Pretty common sense if you ask me. Number 5. The people who are skeptical about DMC secretly want to like it, and it's our job to prove that it's Devil May Cry in essence. No, there was no one secretly wanting to like DMC Devil May Cry. In fact, there are a lot of people who dislike the very nature of the game, in mass quantities no less. Now, there are people that do like it, and I'm not going to judge them. If you are rational minded about DMC, if you like DMC, if you are positive about what you played, more power to you. But I'm just saying, there's a lot more people that hated the game, and there are some people that are neutral on it as well, because different strokes for different folks. However, I am positive that the people that did not buy the game either stuck to their word or chose DMC4 SE over it. If you are stuck to the core essence of what made this series so special, why are people wanting a true sequel to DMC4 instead of overlooking this reboot? There's not something right with this core bullshit concoction that you're brewing here. Number 6. Only DMC fans are going to buy this. It's not going to win a new audience. I thought you just said that it's a creative crime to make this game for someone else, but let's continue on. Given how all the sales goals of this game had to be revised time and time again, and in 2013, Capcom firmly blamed DMC's poor sales due to a decline in quality from excessive outsourcing, I believe that the old school fans already voted with their money a long time ago, well before launch. Number 7. We want to have continuity in combat. Yeah, you must be on some major dope tonight. And it has to be the good shit, as I can see from your bloodshot eyes. Let's just move on from this while we still can, before you embarrass yourselves any further, okay? Number 8. Imagine Dante in a Western movie. We wanted to draw a clear distinction that this was a new Dante, a new Devil May Cry, and this plot is told through a westernized lens, and how the old Dante doesn't fit into that culture. Wait a second, you're envisioning old Dante in a Western movie, and you're drawing from the fact that because he is a very larger than life figure, that he doesn't fit into your little Americanized sandbox because reasons? If that's your logic, then be my guest not to include him into your playpen, because I'd rather have Uncle Dante doing what he does best, fucking shit up, than to rip off every facet of They Live and regurgitating unoriginal concepts down our throat with your version of The Son of Sparta. You might as well hire all the garbage paranormal activity writers on board at Ninja Theory, because they're quite in need of a job. Number 9. DMC's story is almost Shakespearean. Tamim himself goes on to add that on top of these foundations, we are adding gameplay elements that complement combat, such as elaborate traversal, a more dynamic world, and a video game story which hopefully, for once, treats us like sophisticated adults. Oh boy, well, to specify what I think of this very outlandish ass statement, I don't think there's anything remotely adult about a preteen emo Laverian boy and something that looks like Saturday Night's Vomit shouting "fuck you" to each other. That's nothing close to the sophisticated dialects of William Shakespeare. Maybe if Shakespeare took a shit and dressed it up like the script of this game, then you will have something a lot more meaningful to the cause. For the record, most sophisticated adults anyway said that DMC's characterizations, dialogue, and story were all very piss poor, lackluster. You're sure treating the adult right if most of them hate this game from a story perspective. Number 10. There's nothing about our game that has to be fixed. To meme, buddy, pal, dude, do you even know what constructive criticism is? Because I'm positive every game conceived in this medium has a little something we call flaws, and your game certainly does not escape this harsh reality. For example, DMC Devil May Cry, the devil trigger in this game is more of a pain in the ass than a positive. Sure, you can do some insane damage to some bosses, however, it makes enemies levitate, which makes them harder to hit due to this mechanic that they added in, and that would be one of the examples that I really hated with this game. And don't give me that bullshit about Definitive Edition fixing these issues. The fact that that edition exists, the fact that a new edition was needed, literally negates his point. So excuse me while I laugh even harder.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
Number 11. I will argue any changes will bring about a knee-jerk reaction from fans. We know that. We knew that going into it. To be fair, I think some of the strategy here was to create that discussion and dialogue, and I think it drastically raises visibility of the title versus if we had just done another Dante. Was your discussion something that involved completely going to keynotes and avoiding all questions like the bubonic plague? Was this open discussion to fans akin to belittling them every chance you got under the red sun? I think that you got such phrases as ad hominem and discussion clearly mixed up, because this was the case from all reports that I was hearing from you. Also, if you figured that these changes would bring about a bad knee-jerk reaction opposed to making another Dante, then it's quite hilarious how this new Dante had to get similar perks thrown in to be cocky, and you had to rip off the final boss fight of DmC 3, negating your logic once more about this. Number 12. DmC's 30 FPS will feel like 60 FPS. I'm still convinced you're on drugs, by the way, buddy. This statement just hardens my belief of that. Number 13. What is the big deal with no lock on? And this was said during a Capcom Unity stream of DmC Definitive Edition. Let me just give you 3 points why it is a big deal. A. All the older games had it, even DmC 2. B. Lock-on does allow for more prioritizing of individual targets, especially during jump cancels. And C. You remove more content from the original games than you have expanded on with this reboot. Do you really want to argue why the removal of content is a bad thing? You'll lose every time. Number 14. DmC Definitive Edition is about as close as it gets to touching DmC 3's grace. This was quoted from IGN. Wow. I guess that means you're high on drugs too, IGN. All you motherfuckers need Jesus. Number 15. But keep your expectations about DmC in check, and everyone will probably come out happy. That doesn't mean that we won't have more things to talk about in the not so distant future, just to set expectations. I kept my expectations in check. The verdict was that the second foray into the hack and slash genre that you done, Ninja Theory, was beyond disappointing. A 30 FPS brain aneurysm. Now, if this was not linked to Devil May Cry, you wouldn't have had a bar of expectations to keep up with. I guess you guys just had to prove a point, no? And the final quote, number 16. Nothing needs a reboot unless that reboot works. Look at Batman. The parallel to the Batman reboot was Catwoman. Nobody needed that, but when it works, it can change the course of the franchise in a positive way. It can make it survive. Oh, the fucking irony in the first sentence. Enough said. This is Renegade Operative signing off. I hope you guys have enjoyed this top 16. Put a lot of work into it. Hopefully I can make another one pretty soon. But I'm going to get out of here because to me, my Dantes, you give me a headache. Peace out, take care, and I hope you all have a good one.